Power BI Embedded, when it makes sense and how to get started. Welcome back. Today's topic is Power BI Embedded, when it makes sense and how to get started. We'll cover what you actually need to know about Power BI Embedded. Next up, what is Power BI Embedded and when should you use it? Power BI Embedded is a capacity-based Azure service that lets developers render Power BI reports, dashboards, and Q&A experiences inside any web application without requiring end users to hold a Power BI license. That single detail is what separates it from every other Power BI deployment model. You publish reports to a workspace in the Power BI service. Your application backend generates a short-lived embed token. The frontend loads the Power BI JavaScript SDK and renders the report inside a container element on your page. From the user's perspective, they are looking at your application, not Microsoft's. 3 scenarios make Power BI Embedded clearly the right call. Next up, let's talk about Power BI Embedded licensing and pricing explained. This is where most Power BI Embedded documentation goes thin, so let's be specific. Power BI Embedded pricing uses Azure ASKS, sold on an hourly basis through the Azure portal. No annual commitment is required, which makes it practical for variable or seasonal workloads. Prices sourced from the Azure Power BI Embedded pricing page and vary by region. The critical nuance on Power BI Embedded pricing, ASKS can be paused when not in use. If your application serves reports only during business hours, pausing the capacity at night and on weekends cuts monthly costs by 60% or more. That makes A1 viable for many mid-market deployments that look expensive at first glance. Let's talk about how to get started with Power BI Embedded in Azure. Getting Power BI Embedded running in a development environment takes 2 to 3 hours if you follow the steps in order. Here is the practical sequence for using Power BI Embedded in Azure. Your backend service needs an identity to call the Power BI REST API. Register an application in Azure Active Directory, grant it and permissions, and create a client secret. This service principle is what generates embed tokens. A master user approach also works, but service principle is recommended for production because it avoids tying the integration to a specific person's account. Search for Power BI Embedded in the Azure portal and create an A1 capacity for development. Assign your Power BI workspace to this capacity from inside the Power BI admin portal. This is the foundational Power BI Embedded in Azure resource that everything else depends on. Let's talk about now what actually gets complicated in a Power BI Embedded project. The Power BI Embedded tutorial in Microsoft's documentation covers the happy path well. Here is where production projects typically hit real friction. If different users should see different data subsets, you need row-level security configured in your Power BI dataset, with the user's identity passed in the embed token. Getting this wrong means all users see all data. That is a compliance problem, not just a UX problem. Test RLS with multiple synthetic user identities before going to production, and document which roles map to which data boundaries. If your dataset pulls from on-premises SQL Server, Oracle, or other non-cloud systems, you need an on-premises data gateway. Most Power BI Embedded tutorials skip this because it is infrastructure rather than code, but it blocks many enterprise deployments in practice. The gateway runs dataset refresh on its own schedule, separate from your application lifecycle. Understand the refresh window and dataset size before committing to a refresh schedule, because large datasets can take significantly longer than expected. Next up, Power Platform Governance and Embedded Analytics. Power BI Embedded sits within the broader Power Platform, which means Power Platform governance decisions affect it directly. Organizations that skip governance setup create problems that are expensive to fix after the fact. Power Platform governance prevents shadow IT through DLP policies, environment strategies, and approval workflows. When citizen developers build Power BI reports on production datasets without controls, the result is inconsistent metrics, data quality drift, and security exposure. Power Platform ALM gives you the environment promotion structure to catch these issues before they reach users. Q Services implements Power Platform Center of Excellence using Microsoft's COE toolkit as the foundation for clients who want structured governance without building everything from scratch. For embedded analytics specifically, the COE toolkit helps teams. Let's talk about moving on to when to work with a Power BI consulting partner. Power BI embedded implementation has a predictable set of decision points where external expertise saves significant time: RLS architecture, gateway setup, capacity sizing, fabric migration planning, and governance design. Power BI consulting services typically focus on these specific areas rather than the full end-to-end build, though some organizations prefer a complete delivery engagement. The most common trigger for engaging a Power Platform development company is an organization that has started an embedded analytics project, hit a performance wall or an RLS problem, and needs an experienced team to diagnose and resolve it quickly. Power BI dashboard development done well requires expertise in dataset modeling, DAX optimization, and multi-tenant security design, skills that take time to develop if your team is new to the platform. Our Power BI dashboard development post walks through what a structured engagement looks like, including typical timelines and deliverables. For teams evaluating Power Platform premium connectors versus standard, connector choice directly affects the cost and complexity of feeding data into embedded reports, and getting that decision wrong early is expensive to unwind. Now, conclusion. Power BI Embedded makes clear sense for ISVs building analytics into commercial products, organizations with large external user bases where per-user licensing is cost-prohibitive, and teams that need fully branded analytics experiences inside their own applications. For internal reporting where all users already hold Microsoft 365 licenses, standard Power BI Pro or Premium per user is often the cheaper path. The technical implementation is well documented, but the harder parts are RLS design, gateway configuration for on-premises data, capacity sizing, and Power Platform governance as you scale. Those are the areas where experienced Power BI consulting services save the most time and prevent the most expensive mistakes. Whether you are starting from scratch or untangling an existing deployment, getting the architecture decisions right early determines how much pain you avoid later. Ready to see what Power BI embedded analytics could look like inside your application? Request a Power BI embedded demo with the Q Services team and we will build a working example around your actual data.